Sorry, guys. That was a great introduction. If you guys missed it, I'm so sorry. We'll never be able to be duplicated ever again. No, seriously. Okay, so good morning and welcome to this sales training with Bill Martin. We call him Bill Martin OG, Original Gangster, because he is all that. Had a great time actually talking about Bill yesterday and how my relationship with Bill goes way back. And but Bill has just been so awesome in this business for so long, and it's been crazy good that for the last month or so, once a week, Bill's jumping on and doing a sales training, lead driven sales training. Some of you guys, you are learning. You're implementing what Bill's teaching. I see it in your numbers. So today, the topic for today, and I was also saying this. So this is Wednesday. So on Monday, I jumped on and I kicked off the Cornerstone Virtual Office, which I'm going to look to do every Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And that is, that's because Claudia Matthew told me, John, you got to jump on Mondays, right? So if y'all do not like that, don't get mad at me, get mad at Claudia. Okay. Claudia will be on in a minute. Maybe she'll address that. So Wednesdays, today is Wednesday, 9 o'clock. Okay. So if Bill has a conflict and cannot jump on Thursdays, okay, we're not going to go a whole week. Hopefully we'll not go a whole week without Bill Martin. And so we'll always do this Wednesday impromptu sales training. Okay. So that's why we're doing today. I've gotten a few texts on, hey, are we going to re-implement our call schedule? And are we going to start doing it? No, Wednesdays won't be an every week thing. It'll only be if Bill can't do Thursdays. But you guys know that we're focusing all of our team call on Thursdays at 10. Okay, so that's our only really set call per week. Outside of now, Mondays, I'll get on and just kind of welcome everybody to the CVO. So a lot of our focus on sales training is going to be on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We're opening up our Cornerstone Virtual Office. Okay, that's a fancy way of saying Zoom link. But what's really cool is that, and guys, I really do think this is cool. Like, so on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, which for most top producers that are full-time, they're really trying to front load their week. They want to go hit their goals Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They want to start easing into the weekend on Thursdays. And then by Fridays, they want to be well into their weekends, enjoying their lifestyle. I mean, that's the lifestyle of a 1099er, right? So Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, our leaders, our sales leaders, they've committed to working in front of you. Like when you jump on, you're going to hear them make dials. Setting appointments, you're going to see them do appointments. You're just going to kind of see them work. You can jump in and ask questions. If you need personal training, you can go to a side room inside the Zoom link and get personal training. I just don't think there's really anything better than that. So for all of you brand new people that are plugging in, if you want to text me your feedback, if you think that we can make that better, please do. But really, in the grand scheme of things, and don't take this the wrong way, but I think we've done a really good job of overtraining people. I think sometimes you can overtrain people and get people so wrapped around the axle that they start like they're thinking too much. And if they're thinking too much, they're not running downhill. They're not taking massive action, which at the end of the day in lead-driven sales, massive action wins. We're actually gonna kind of start off covering a couple of points here as soon as I turn it over to Bill Martin. Okay, so this morning, for the next little bit, the CVO link, thank you for plugging in. Okay, so I've got Bill Martin. Bill's going to lead this. I'm going to kind of mute out, fade to the background, but I've also asked for Claudia Matthew to join. You guys know Claudia, she's been a rock star in this business forever. and ever. I've asked Casey Gregory to join. Casey, rock star, big time. Okay, these are top salesmen, and I've asked them to jump on with Bill. Rob Gillen, I'm not sure if Rob's able. There's Rob. Rob, man, I know this is kind of a week with your kids, and man, you've gotten the golden doodle. Best video, or if you guys are not on our GroupMe, get on our GroupMe and watch the video of Rob surprising his kids with the golden doodle. If you can watch that video and not cry, I'll give you $5. Okay. Rob, best video ever. Okay, so two things, Bill. I'm going to just toss this out and let you run with it however you want to run with it. Okay. But there's two things. So in this topic this morning of how to win in lead-driven sales. Okay, if you guys want at some point in time get into specific lead types, whether it's ethos or mortgage protection or internet digital leads, so be it. But there's two things to me that I really would love to hear you guys kind of dive in and get into the weeds on, and that is, number one, I see it all the time. People that win in this business, they're not the best salespeople. If they're any personality type, they're probably more customer service relationship driven than they are sales driven. Like if I get on a sales training and somebody's talking about, yes, you got to get 3 yeses before you do this, and you got to ask for a cup of water, and Bill, we've been around all those people, right? All those people think there's guys and I do not listen to them at all. Okay. Lead-driven sales, people that are great at lead-driven sales, they're great at booking appointments. If you can develop the skill level in lead-driven sales, because the definition of a lead, I don't care if it's mortgage protection, if it's this new, latest, greatest ethos, the definition of a lead is a name, contact information, and it's a reason to call them. Your close ratio is all about your ability to communicate to them who you are, why you're calling, and book an appointment. For people that learn how to do that, it's not the sales presentation that separates them. It's their ability to book good quality appointments. And then, so number two for you guys, people that win in this business, Bill, another common denominator are just people that they take action. So many times, if you were to interrogate the reality of the unsuccessful, if you were to interrogate the reality of the struggle, if you were to interrogate the reality of the mayor of Suckville, it's their calendar, it's their action. Desire wins, man. For people that want to learn how to figure it out, they figure it out. For people that don't, and they're just too casual about it, they never do. So those are just two things. Y'all may get into other things, but those are two things I just want to put on your plate. Bill Martin, thanks for joining us. I'll turn the controls over to you.
Well, thank you so much, John, and welcome everybody this morning. And I love these topics because it really, to me, when we try to do a training, what's the purpose of doing a training? Is it to take the person that's unmotivated and try to motivate them? No, it really isn't, because we're looking for people that are already motivated who want to know how to get results, right? It's not about somebody coming on board and going, well, I'd like to be in that position that so-and-so that Claudia's in, or Casey, or so-and-so, or Deanna Cooper. I'd like to be in that position, but I'm not really that motivated to do what they're doing. There's really not much we can do for that person, right? And I know that might be a harsh reality to a lot of people, but when I got into this business, I was already motivated. I didn't like the way I lived. I didn't like my lifestyle. I did not like not having any money in my bank account. I just didn't like living that way. I didn't like living paycheck to paycheck. So when I found the lead-driven sales business and realized, I remember calling it this, John. To me, it was the goose that laid the golden egg. And the reason I put it that way into my brain is because all the years I was in sales up until that point, I had to go look for prospects. So I was the prospector, right? That was my job, is just go find somebody that may take 5 minutes to listen to me, right? That's what I did for years. So when I found a lead driven program that was people that said, yes, I would take a few minutes and listen to you on what you have. That's all I needed. Just spending your time just trying to find somebody that would just listen to you takes just so much energy and time. But when you can have the leads do that for you, a lead program of what, and it doesn't matter to me what type of lead program. I don't care if it's final expense, mortgage protection. Mortgage protection is great. Final expense is great. The ethos leads. You're going to hear. We're doing my producer playbook this week with 3 people. They're having huge success with ethos leads. We're going to talk about it. They say they're a better lead in the long run than a mortgage lead. The reason being is these people in their mind have already bought. So it's an incomplete lead. So we're going to talk about the nuances of all that and how they're able to get around that and how it works. So they enjoy those more. They say the only issue is that they're harder to get a hold of. That's it. The people are hard to get a hold of. Once you get a hold of them, there's no real presentation. It's like they just want to know how much it's going to cost. What do we got to do to get it started? Okay. So when you find a lead driven program, if you've got a motivated person, then it's just putting everything into place, right? Let's just get the schedule going and go. If you're spending time with people, or if you're new on here and you're having to be coached on how to discipline yourself to get your work schedule in place, man, that's a tough road. I don't know. I don't know personally. I don't know how to motivate somebody. If that sounds crazy, because I'm known as a motivator. I'm not a motivator. I'm just telling you how things work. I'm just talking to you about how to change some of the way you speak to people. Don't talk like all salesmen, etc. But as far as it's too much energy for me to try to motivate somebody. It's like taking a teenager who doesn't want to wake up past 11 o'clock in the morning. It's like, oh my gosh, and it just takes so much energy to get them to get going. So really, if you find a motivated person, if you are a motivated person and you're saying to yourself as you're listening to me, that's not my problem, Bill. That's not my problem. Okay, then we got something to work with. And I think that's kind of the direction I want to go with today. And we're going to kind of go a little round robin here and talk about that and talk about how you discipline yourself because you may be motivated but don't know how to put a schedule together and stick to it. You're all over the place. I've seen many people. John Kite knows a couple. I'm not going to name names, but he knows a couple of them that are really talented people I've seen come here, have everything they need, right? They are motivated, but they just chase every squirrel that runs across the road. They'll get started on, mortgage protection or whatever, and then they'll want to check immediately after a week or two. They want to go over this direction and get into the advanced markets. And then after the advanced markets, they want to chase this over here. And then they want to chase that over there, et cetera, et cetera. And they can never stay focused. And my advice would be stay in one lane. Do it until you're successful and you've got money coming in and you've got money and you got money in the bank and you think you might have put your toe into another direction a little bit and maybe get a little bit more into the advanced markets or whatever, retirement solutions, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But you got to make money in the meantime. You can't be all over the place. We've lost some really quality people that could have killed it here because they kept going like this and just chasing, could never stay focused. It's a discipline. I think what it is, and you guys can help me out on this. I think what it is, Claudia, is this. We'll start with Claudia first. I think what I see with people that are like that, they get started, they need money, and they say, well, this is nice making $800 a sale or whatever. But man, did you hear about that annuity that somebody got or that huge IUL sale that somebody got? They don't realize that those sales take a lot longer than getting that $800, which is going to happen in 2 days. It could take 5 weeks for some of these other sales to happen. They don't see that part of it. So they start chasing it, right? And it's just about just sticking to the basics right now. And that's why we lose these people because they can't financially support themselves by chasing all this stuff. Talk about, and you've been very disciplined. We've known each other. I think we met it might have been 12 or 11. I don't remember
2000,
what year it was.
2007.
Are you kidding me, Claudia? Oh my gosh. That's what happens when you get old. It seems like, yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. It was 2007. Holy cow. So you've been disciplined for a long time. I mean, you've been doing this business right at almost 20 years now. Talk about how important it is to stay in your lane because you've always just been there. You're just a steady, steady, steady person. You've got a great business. You've always been a top producer. Talk about a little bit when I was that subject there about not getting too crazy and just staying focused and having to already be motivated and just need a direction.
Absolutely, John. I will. Oh my goodness, I had not had coffee, Bill.
I have.
I just started drinking my cup of coffee. Good morning, Bill, and thank you for having me here. Listen, here's what I tell the new agents: keep it simple. Like when you call a lead, your job is to perform what they request on that lead. You know what I mean? I just wish, like, when you get a new agent, when you have a child, you protect them from everything.
Yeah.
You protect them from the stove, you protect them from getting hurt. I wish I could get an agent and just put something in their ears and their mindset and cover, like just keep it simple, because I see new agents like in the middle of a mortgage protection appointment talking about annuity or talking about, paying off their loan early. And now they're creating all this confusion on the appointment, right? So,
Yeah.
if you choose work mortgage protection and if you're doing well, don't change it. Stay there. You're making money, you're paying your bills, don't change it. Stay there. You're working, eat those leads, you're working and you're getting results. Don't change it. Stay there. You want to supplement? Absolutely. But don't keep changing every single day just because you heard Rob doing well or because you heard somebody else doing well. You keep it simple. And for me, you know, um, I am smart enough to know that, if somebody is doing something and they're getting results, I want to learn. I want to learn because we have to be student. We have to learn every single day, correct? But at the same time, we can be the type of student that every day you're changing the direction of where you're going, because all you're doing, you're creating confusion and lack of results in your business. Consult with your growing up line. Do you think this is good for me? You know what I mean? Like, I don't make change in my business without picking up the phone and calling John and Kim. I don't. I wanna change with the ethos. I saw that Rob was doing great results, and I told John, hey, I'm thinking about supplementing this. I pick up the phone and I call Rob. Why? Because he's getting the results. I want to learn from him. I don't care, he's been in insurance business for 2.5 years. Like, he's getting the results that I'm not. So what we do, you learn from that person. Like, you need to be humble enough to know, like, I want to learn, and I want to learn for who is getting the results. So, Bill, how I keep it motivated, like, I'm doing this for my babies, you know what I mean? I'm doing this for my children. And I know that this business, you can make money, you can get the results. So this is what I do. I put my wife foremost in front of me. I know what I want to accomplish. I'm a role model for my kids. I am a provider for my children, and I just keep that in front of me. And that's my why. My why is that, and also help so many other agents in this industry to duplicate what I was able to accomplish here. And that's the reason why I'm here and I don't get distracted. Like, some people have way too much distraction. Like, I get up in the morning, I know that, before serving the Lord, which is the first thing that comes in my life, the second one is my babies. And I just get here in this chair after a good day or a bad day. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work because I have to do that. I don't have a plan B, Bill. Some people got to burn their plan B. I don't have a plan B. I got to be here and do this for my babies. So, and that's the reason why I don't get distracted.
And I think back to when I first found this part of the lead driven business, as opposed to some other rinky dink programs. Um, and it didn't take me long at all. I mean, in a matter of weeks, I realized I had found it, that I was never ever going to leave this business, that I was home, right? Because I had been searching for that. I'd been searching for something that, I was an independent contractor minded person. I got started when I was very young. I was 22 when I got into the commission sales. And I realized, wow, I don't have anybody telling me what I'm worth. I don't have anybody telling me what to do. It's up to me, right? And so I was really attracted to it. I had no ceiling. It's scary when you have a family and you're in straight commission. It's scary for the spouse, right? And all that, because they're just not used to it, you know. And so for other people, it's scary. It wasn't scary for me. I was never afraid, right? And I was never afraid because you know why? I knew what I had inside of me. I knew how hard I could work. I knew that I could knock doors. I could do whatever I needed to do to make sure that I could generate it. So for a new person out there, you got to know what's inside of you. I don't know what's inside of you. I don't know what you're made of. But to me, it's like, man, if I had the canvas and sitting in front of me and I could paint whatever picture I wanted based on my energy level and my desire and motivation, how can you beat that? I mean, you're a self-employed person, you're running your own business, and you don't have to put out $400,000 to start a restaurant or anything like that, right? And you can have results that are even better than that. What do you say to those people out there? And then we'll finish with you, and then I want to move on. But let me ask you this question: how do you talk to a person who asks you a question? How do I stay disciplined? I have a struggle with that one. Okay. I struggle with trying to give somebody advice on how to stay disciplined. I say, get your calendar out, fill it with appointments, and run the appointments, and then rinse and repeat. Instead of going, fill my appointments, right, this week. Oh, I had a good week. I'll only work a couple days next week. And then the following week, and then you just get this inconsistency that drives you bananas. Okay. What do you say to people like that?
You know, last week in a call, you say that if there's not a need on appointment, there's not a sale, right? So, I know you use a different word, but if there's no desire, if there's not a shown why you're doing this, if you're just chasing money, like you might survive 2 weeks on your schedule, then you're gonna quit. Bill, like we
Yep.
had seen this. We had seen people with so much talent
Yep.
just walk away from the business, right?
Yep.
So like if you don't have a true desire and why that like even on the hard days when you want to quit, like you can't. You can quit. You absolutely cannot quit. And another thing is if you don't have the work ethic, like there's so many more people talent than me and then Rob and then Diana and so many other, but they don't have work ethic. They don't. Okay, they don't have that. So for me, if I'm talking to somebody that asks me the questions, I'm gonna say like can we have an honest conversation? Like can we really be honest with one another? Okay, because I can lie to you, Bill, but like, should I lie to myself? Because I gotta face myself in a mirror. You know what I mean? And that's hard, like, God say forgive others, but what people, struggle the most is forgiving themselves. Why? Because they're so used to lie to themselves, making promises that they're never going to do it. So, yes, it is hard. It is hard because you can be working from home and you can get distracted. You can get calls, but you're going to have to basically set a schedule and treat it like you have a boss. Treat it like you have a boss. Like if you're gonna say you're gonna work from 9 a.m. like some of us that get here on a virtual call, do you really think I want to be sitting in this chair from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.? No, I don't. But you know what I'm doing, know what Case is doing, and so many of the other leaders doing, because we're leading by example to teach you guys if we can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah.
Like, do we have to be sitting here? No, we don't. But like we say we're gonna do it, so we're gonna do it. So treat it like you have a boss that if you don't do this at the end of the week, you're gonna be fired.
Yeah.
Put that pressure in yourself. You're going to be fired, but the reality is you don't have a boss, you're not going to be fired. But if you don't make a money, you're going to quit. I don't know what is the difference, Bill, being
Yeah.
fired or quitting, you know what I mean? So I treat this like a business. I don't treat this as a hobby. I don't treat this I'm going to do when I can. Like in my children know, like it's summer camp, like my 11 years old is right in front of me. They're not going to ask me to take them to the beach or the park right now because they know mommy is working. They know mom is working. They don't understand if, the whole entire concept, but guess what? I treat this as a job. period, because this is how I provided for my family. I don't have a plan B, Bill. And if you want to have success on this, you're going to have to treat this as a job. And guess what? It's the most amazing thing, be able to work from home and raise your family and be part of that, be able to travel. Like, I had accomplished so many things throughout this business. And I don't say this to brag. I say this to know this is the type of business that a girl like me from a third world country, never went to college, I had made more income than lawyers and doctors around me.
Yep.
Just because I show up and I did the work. That's it. Like, that's it. And don't get distracted. It's that simple. I don't know how to put it that simple. It's that simple.
It is. And I'm thinking about too, something you said earlier, and it just triggered a thought in my head. And I'm going to ask Casey a couple questions. I remember, it's the rule of what goes around comes around. Okay. And I remember hearing that years and years ago. And when I was a kid or whatever, I didn't understand what it meant. But as I got older, I absolutely understood what it meant. Is that you always put in the extra because it's going to eventually pay you back at some point. It's when you cheat yourself, okay, and you don't put in the extra and do above and beyond, that it starts building up over time and starts eating away at you, and you have failures. The reason you have successes, it's like anybody that made it to a higher level in professional sports are the people that are the gym rats. They got in before everybody else and left after everybody else. It's just the way it works. They put in more time to it. And John was talking about this, I think, last week or the week before, the 10,000-hour rule. And I'll tell you, this is one story I'll never forget that happened to me. And I was in a situation years ago working, this is back when I was traveling on the road, 14, 15 hours a day. I'd had a really good day on the road. I was 2 hours from home. Okay. And it was 9 o'clock at night. I got through my last appointment, the second to last appointment, a little bit late. I still had another appointment. That other appointment was 30 minutes south, farther from my house. Okay. It was a 9 o'clock appointment. It was already 9 o'clock. I was going to be late. I said to myself, I am so tired. Do I want to just tell all these people and try to reschedule, which we know will never work out? Run the appointment, call them and tell them I'm going to be a few minutes late. I'll be there in a few minutes. Run the appointment. And I knew I wasn't going to get home and probably till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. And I said to myself, Bill, what goes around comes around. What happens in that moment when I did that, I made the sale and I had a huge day. I mean, it was like a $10,000 day or something crazy. And I remember after making that sale, I felt great. I was tired, but I felt great. But I also knew this, somewhere down the road, it might be 3 weeks from now, that's going to pay back. Something's going to happen where it's going to come back around to me because I put the extra effort in. And those people deserved my time. They were so appreciative of me of coming over there. They wanted me to stay overnight. You don't need to drive back up there. You stay. No, I'm good. I'll make it home somehow. And you just feel so good because they were so appreciative, and it was something they really, really needed. And that moment still sticks with me. That happened in 2011 or whatever it was. And I'm just telling you, it pays off somewhere down the road. You got to keep putting it in. Casey, talk about that for a second. The discipline involved. How do you discipline yourself? What advice do you give people that are struggling with that part of it, that are new to this business?
Yeah, discipline in this particular business to me means having routine.
Yeah.
If you can get yourself into a routine, you might shift here and there, small pieces, but if you want to start your day off with exercise, reading, and then getting into your day, association is something that I had put down for a while and regretted it big time. It's one of the biggest things John Kite and Bill Martin ever taught me was you got to associate. You got to associate. I didn't get it for a long time. Well, I got it now. We need each other because it's a lonely business out there, especially when we were on the street. And so I think, having a good attitude is very important, and everybody kind of gets their center in a different way. But yeah, does that answer kind of that question?
Yeah, my question to you would be this, so we can share it with everybody else. What
Yeah.
do you do? How do you stay disciplined, and how are you motivated? I mean, how would you answer that question to a person that says, I'm not always that motivated, and none of us are. We have to do
Right.
things, right? But something's driving you inside. So how would you answer that person that says, how do you stay disciplined? How do you stay motivated?
My family is my motivation. And I know a lot of people say that, but it's true. I have two kids in college, and I've got two kids that are still home. And I've got a partner in life that is also in this business, and they're looking towards me to take the lead. And that's, if I need any more motivation than that, goodness. But everybody on this call has got their own motivation. What is it for you? Claudia's got 5 little kids. Terry's got a child or two, I think. And, there's a lot of other folks here. Jeremy, one of our great people on this call, has plenty of motivation. He's got a wife and family around him. Goodness, I mean, the list goes on. But the way I stay motivated like that is I continue to do my routine. I get in, do my reading, do my exercise. We'll have a conversation and we pray about it. And this is what we're going to do today. And we do it every day, just like that. And not every day is going to be the same, but that's how I stay motivated and stay centered to do what I need to do.
If I threw out the term slave to your schedule, how would you respond to that? Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
I have not always done that. I think that can be good for some people. I think being consistent with your schedule is something that resonates with me, Bill. I think life is not always, to the letter, but I know what you're saying and I do agree with it. And yeah, I think if you get off your schedule, just expect there to be some inconsistency in your production.
Well, when I meant it like that, when I was doing this business, I had 4 children, they were little,
Yep.
and it was the most chaotic time of my entire life. I got the least amount of sleep between running this business in the field, driving cars, right? And then trying to deal with getting to games and those types of things, because they
Yep.
were all in sports and they were only 2 years apart. So you can imagine we were just pulling our hair out. And but so I had a lot of times that there was interruptions.
Yep.
My schedule was in front of me and I had it weeks out in advance, so I knew where I could put everything in there. And I scheduled in the family with my business. And the reason I did that is because if I didn't, I would have these ups and downs financially in our family, which would make everything worse. The stress level in the family it gets 10 times worse when your finances are all over the board. When
Yep.
mama's happy, everybody's happy. And what makes mama happy, right, is money in the bank so she can pay the bills. And then she's happy and there's less stress in the family. So,
Yep.
so for me, that was really what was driving me all the time. I can remember telling Cheryl at different times in some stages of the business, like if finances got a little janky once in a while, I would just look at her and say, calm down. Tell me how much you need. And I knew that I looked at her, I said, I can get $5,000 in the account in 7 days. Okay. Within 7 days. Just tell me how much we need. Was it 2,000, 5,000, whatever it is, I'll make it happen within 7 days. And it would always calm her down because that's what would happen. I would have to work maybe extra, whatever, and I'd fit it in. But I made it to a lot of stuff. I mean, I didn't miss a whole lot. It's just that I didn't really necessarily do all the things that Bill wanted to do because you know why? I took responsibility as a father and a husband to help make sure the family, and that's what you guys do. That's what
Yep.
Claudia is doing. That's what John did. You take responsibility as a person. Now, in Deanna Cooper's family, she's the one that does that part of it. Her husband works full time, but she's the one that's bringing in the massive amount of money into the family, right? And they live an incredible lifestyle. And she's crazy though. I mean, she makes my discipline look like an amateur, right? As far as what she does every single week. And don't make no mistake for people on the call here that somebody like Deanna, if you think it's just pure talent, you're wrong. She'll admit it. It's just her work ethic is insane. It has to be insane to hit those numbers. There's just no way around it. Okay. Um, how long you been in the business, Casey?
I got here in September of 2016.
So really, really early with okay, so you were one of the first people. And so you've
Yep.
made you're pushing we're at 10, almost 10 years that you've been with us now. And you've been there the whole time. I've always seen you. I've seen your numbers. You've always been very steady. What in your mind for that person that wants to know how can I be long term in this business? What's your best piece of advice?
Invest in your business. You have to have inventory. You have to have people to talk to. You don't have to rely explicitly on leads, especially when you first start and money's short. Talk to folks, let them know what you're doing. You got to be creative in that way, I think. That's what I did. But you have
Find
to invest,
creative.
define creative.
Yeah.
Well, when I was first starting out, I talked to friends and family. I said, I've not been in the insurance business before very much or very long. You know me as a car person, but I'm doing this. I'm sure you guys have life insurance. I wonder if I might be able to look at your policy and review it. I'm just trying to get used to
Yeah.
reading these things, and people
Yeah.
always wanted to help. That's one way of being creative.
So you actually
Another way,
took that advice and ran with it then when we trained on
yeah,
that.
man.
It works.
Yeah, it sure did. And people don't want to be sold, but they want to help.
Yeah.
You know? So I didn't sell them all, but I got some good experience. And some of them I'm like, oh, you have the old kind of insurance. What is that? Oh, well, let me tell you about it. When you have thyroid cancer, and you have a claim, you can get some money to help pick up the slack while you're recovering. How about that? I mean, I was in the hospital. I did experience that. I do know what it's like to have parents pass away without insurance. Those are real stories. If you don't have any stories like that, you can borrow mine or somebody else's. That's another way of being creative is just having conversations. Be the kind of person that's approachable in the coffee shop. Say hello to people. I go out right now. I like cars, Bill, and I'll ride through the car lots and see if I can see the person that just looks beat down. I'll be, I'll just ask them a question about a car and just get into a conversation. Like, hey, do you keep your options open? I know I'm going down another path here, but you talked about
No, no,
creativity.
you know what? I mean, it all encompasses the business.
You're
You
right.
know, the business is not just selling, it's obviously introducing it to people. The longevity of this business is building a team. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get in, I had chased probably 6 or 7 MLM deals in my life. Got into them
Same.
kind of deep at different points because I was looking for a way to bring up longevity income. They were
Right.
all so rinky-dink. And
Yeah.
then my first introduction to this, it kind of smelled a little bit like that. So I was a little leery of it at first, but then I started realizing there's nothing like it. This is just the insurance business. I was in the insurance business. I had overrides on people 20 years before this, right? That's just the
Yeah.
insurance business. And
Yep.
you didn't have to hire anybody. In an MLM deal, you have to hire people. You can't make money selling products in MLM by yourself. I can make $1 million like Deanna Cooper and not hire a single person.
Hmm.
There's the difference, right? So that's why I think it's a great conversation to have because why not introduce it to other people? That's the long-term play, right?
Yeah. Besides, you never know what type of coverage that they may or may not be interested in. You just
Yeah.
talk to them. But you got to have an open heart and an open mind. And sometimes that's something that I fought in my career. And so I would just say, Rob Gillen, I want to tell you publicly, thank you very much for our conversation, sir. You have the heart of a servant, and I need to be reminded that that's what I need to continue to have. And when you deliver your first death benefit to somebody, Bill, I'm quite sure you know what that's like.
Mhm. Many
That'll
times
change.
over.
That'll change you, man.
Yep. Yep.
So, and I have to bring myself back to center. And this is one of those times people may not even know it. I'm in the process of moving myself back to center where it's less about the sale and it's more about making a compelling argument for the coverage. And that's what you taught me and Rob Jones, frankly. He goes, sometimes you just got to roll up your sleeves and make a compelling argument.
Yep.
And they're going to say yes or they're going to say no. But that's why you need these inventories so you can continue to find the person. But you need to have the right heart when you call them.
Yep. That's 1000%. Thanks, Casey.
Yes, sir.
So Rob, I don't know each other as well as these two guys that I know Claudia and Casey. So how long have you been with our company in the business?
I've officially been with the company for about, I'd say 2.5 years.
Okay.
But the first year I was going through quite a bit, so I didn't really have a whole lot to bring to the table. I was kind of figuring out life like many people on this call. Started to really kick it into gear about 1.5 years ago, and then not unlike most of us, you told Claudia's story, Bill, and Casey rung in with his family. Same thing with me. I'm buying a house here in early August, and that shifted two things for me. One, my motivation and my drive to bring home some income, but then also just shifting very hard to simplify the shoot. Because like you said, when you're doing fully underwritten, it's great to put those submitted numbers up there, right? That sounds great. You're getting applause and high fives. But then sometimes either A, it doesn't come for 4, 5, 6 weeks, or B, it doesn't come at all. They get declined a month later and you realize that it was all for nothing. So it's become a lot more simplified for me. So really, I would say, kind of like Claudia and Casey both mentioned, the last 3 or 4 months, I finally woke up. So very new here.
Let me ask you a question.
I
want to ask you a question on that regard. Why were you doing fully underwritten? I mean, I know the answer, but I'm just, what was the reason you were doing it?
It was two things for me. I've actually worked a lot with some younger agents recently. I don't know if you know them, but like Chris and Justin are two guys that I've been kind of partnered with. And one of the things I talked to them about is I always kept going for the lowest, cheapest price possible for my clients. And I had a good heart about it, right? I wanted to give them the very cheapest price. And I thought, man, I'll be able to lay my head on my pillow at night knowing I gave them the absolute lowest possible price.
Yeah.
That being said, it didn't work for a couple of reasons, but the 10-second answer is A, it was making it really hard for me to get paid, period. I was really struggling to get any money in the bank at all. And then B, a lot of times they were getting flagged for stuff anyways. If I'd have just gone simplified, I'd have dodged 95% of that. But I was always just fighting for price point.
Yeah, and this is the reason I wanted you to mention that, because I'm going to tell you what happened to me too. I came from the fully underwritten world when I got into this business and didn't know simplified issue. Okay. I thought everybody I was going to sit down with was going to get an APS and a nurse come out, and then have an APS there. Every time I wrote a case prior to this, it was like there was always an APS. And if it was depending on the size, we had to have a medical exam. So when they get here and they say they don't need any of that stuff, I go, the guy's got blood pressure and cholesterol and he weighs 240 pounds and he's only 5'6". No, he's fine. What are you talking? I mean, I couldn't believe it. But my old habits kicked in when I first got started here. And I kept saying, well, this guy's healthy. I mean, if I show him the simplified rate, it's going to be twice as much as what I could get him for for fully underwritten. And I'm pretty sure he qualified based on what he's told me. So I was submitting fully. This is back in 2006. I started really learning a lesson, and I started submitting some fully underwritten cases. And it looked good on paper. I'd come in, oh, Bill wrote 12,000 this week, right? That's what I wrote. What did I get paid? Well, I knew the system because we used to call it submit and pray because it would take 6 weeks for something to get approved. Well, I had two cases that caught me on where somebody had a APS or an exam. One guy had an exam done. He was a complete healthy guy, 55 years old, wanted $250,000 worth of coverage. And he said, I'm fine. I run marathons, blah, 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 blah. They did the exam. And guess what they found out? He had prostate cancer. He didn't know it. The good news is they caught it. Bad news is he can't get insurance. Now, if I had submitted a simplified issue, they wouldn't have done an exam. They could have found out later that he had the prostate cancer, right? So he would have gotten a policy. And I started realizing I'm actually hurting people's opportunity to get coverage, right? when you start, and that's what a lot of the big box companies do. All they do is submit business on fully underwritten. The reason Simplified is more expensive because they're accepting that risk. And you're going to get more people covered. And Rob, you get paid. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I had a guy come into my office. He was referred to me from one of my kids' teachers' husband. Okay. She talked to my wife and said her husband was looking for a job. So we'll come and talk to Bill. So he got hired. He started working for me. After about a week or so, he came into my office. He says, "I think you guys are ripping people off." Like, what are you talking about? Well, you're telling us to write this simplified issue stuff. And I can see the fully underwritten stuff is a lot cheaper. I said, "Yeah, but you won't get paid." He goes, "Oh, you're just saying that because you just want to." I said, "Okay, test your theory then." I said, "Go ahead. You just write fully underwritten. I don't care. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm trying to help you get people covered and you get paid, right? I'm trying to do both at the same time. Don't believe me." He goes, "I'm going to prove you wrong." So for 90 days, he went out. He came back 90 days later with his tail between his legs. He says, "I have to quit the business." I said, "Why?" He goes, "I'm not making any money." I said, "Really? Why is that?" He goes, "I can't get anybody covered or approved, and it takes weeks." I said, "I know. I understand. It's doing a disservice in a lot of cases for people to go fully underwritten. Once you get a policy in place, okay, you can try maybe a fully underwritten for a bigger policy or whatever. But to prove your point, exactly, Rob, you learned a lesson. Why didn't you quit?"
I didn't quit because, so I'll tell you what really stinks, Bill, is I just sat in purgatory for like a year and a half, and I was doing all kinds of side hustles, and I was getting paid on different part-time jobs on the side, barely staying afloat, eating into my savings. And then finally I thought, well, man, I got to buy a house in about 3 months. I should probably try a simplified issue to see if I can get a down payment. Made $10,000 in about a week. Yeah. And it was just paid. So then I was like, well, wait a second. And what you just said, Bill, is true. Then I looked back 30,000 feet and thought, man, they all got covered.
Yeah.
And I look back, I didn't have to, sit down for an hour with a cup of coffee to look back and be like, holy cow, I just really screwed over a bunch of clients. Because if I'd have simplified issued a lot of them, they would have gotten covered and they'd have had coverage in place. And so, yeah, that's really why it took me so long to get into this business. But now it's the 3 or 4 carriers every single time. It's Mutual of Omaha, Transamerica, Foresters, sometimes Aetna, CVS. Those are really the only 4 carriers I really stick to. And because I've taken the dozen carriers I have and I've simplified them down to like 3 or 4, now I really know those carriers.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of carriers. It's great to say, but I would usually stick around 3 carriers. When we had all these carriers, I had my 3 that I knew how their underwriting worked. I knew how they thought I was comfortable with, and their prices were right where I needed them to be. And that's what I kind of stuck with instead of going with, don't get scattered, simplify everything. But it's curious. So you kind of did a bunch of things, including this. We're just doing a whole bunch of things. And then one day just said, I got to figure this out and I got to simplify this. And then you decided to go ahead and go with it because is it because you heard other people were doing it? Is that why?
I was just trying a bunch of stuff, but I already had those carriers. My first policy I ever wrote, Bill, 2.5 years ago, was on Mutual of Omaha. It was an IULE on a lady named Gail. She heads the American Lung Cancer Association here in Augusta, Maine, and I wrote her, and she got approved. And so I always had the wherewithal to understand that it would work. And then when I finally went back and tried it full steam, bought a bunch of Ethos leads. I spent about $3,000 in January, just bought a whole slew of aged Ethos leads.
Good.
The first 10 that I called, I wrote 3 policies. But I would say, just on the back end of that, Bill, is that I had a much stronger why. And so I pushed a lot harder than I had. And these are the 2 things I was battling mentally. The first one was, you can't do simplified, right? You got to do fully underwritten, get the lowest price, blah, blah, blah. The second thing I was fighting was, I don't want to be a pushy salesman. So I was asking a lot of questions. I was being very passive. I was kind of just handing the entire presentation to the client, hoping they would find their way. And after I finally started leading and took the bull by the horns, I told the clients, I told Cornerstone here, last week when I was on a call. I said, I don't ask very many questions anymore. I mean, I'll ask a question if I know the answer, but I'm really directing them. Hey, why don't you send me your wife's information? I'm going to run some quotes for her here. Can you get those to me by the end of the day? That's
And
how
you
I
know
get
what?
referrals now.
That's a great point. And the reason you can do that is because they've already raised their hand and said they're interested, right? You're allowed to do that because it's not like, and I always use the furniture store analogy. When you're walking into a furniture store, it's pretty obvious I'm looking for furniture. I'm not like looking for ice cream or tennis shoes, right? I'm looking for furniture. So when a salesman comes up to me, it's like just I'll ask you some questions when I know what I want. So if I'm going into a furniture store, I'm not walking in there and going, "Where's the groceries?" So when somebody's reaching out through Ethos Mortgage or whatever, they're already interested. We don't have to have that conversation. We're just wanting to know why and what is your situation so we can help you. And it's an assumed sale. So when it's an assumed sale, you don't have to be rude. You just got to be a director. I said, yeah, I think you said it very good. When you said the word lead, it was like, boom. I love that because that's exactly what you're doing. You're leading down the process. You're asking enough questions to make sure you got the right product for them or whatever. We don't have to have the conversation about, do you need insurance? I just want to find out why you need insurance. What's this for? How bad is your pain inside? I'm not going to get the question. So it's not like just grabbing somebody off the street and trying to convince them that they need insurance. We don't have to do that process, right? And that light bulb goes off, right?
Yeah, and I love your quote from the last time you spoke. I wrote it down and I've taught it to even a handful of people that we've been in front of is no pain, no presentation. I thought that
Yeah.
was brilliant. If there's no pain here, I'm not going to waste my time. This is a no matter what I do, because there's no pain, right? So
Yep.
just move on to the next one. Don't waste your time.
So let's talk a couple minutes and we'll end with this. Talk about the Ethos leads. Because like I said, I've got 3 people that are doing them. They're all jacked up about them. Also, tell us why they're so they tell me it's because these people really are looking for insurance. They went out of their way, heard the ad or whatever. They went through the process. It was incomplete because they didn't get approved or they just stopped making. They didn't have time to complete the application or whatever it was. But their mindset is they're looking for insurance, right?
Yeah, I love the line that keeps getting thrown around. I think John's the one that keeps saying it, is that they're buyers.
Yeah.
They're coming to buy and they're looking for convenience. The advertisements that are going out directly from Ethos Life are, hey, get covered in 10 to 15 minutes, and here's an average cost of what it's gonna
Yeah.
cost you. I don't really lean into price point though. I'm not really fighting them on, hey, let's try to save you a buck. I'm really leaning into
Yeah.
convenience. And so if I call them and they haven't gotten coverage, I'll just say, hey, ring ring. Hey, Bill, how you doing? This is Rob Gillen. I'm a specialist. I do have appointments with carriers found on Ethos, and just wanted to give you a call real quick. And I saw you weren't able to get coverage on the website. And why don't you tell me a little bit about your experience? What happened that you weren't able to get coverage? And then I'm trying in that first 60 seconds to talk as little as possible. I really just want to introduce myself, let them chat. As they're chatting, oh, okay. Wow. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, okay. And then I'm trying to build rapport in that first 60 seconds. And then I'm really just transitioning to, hey, listen, well, I'm a specialist. On our website, there's only 3 or 4 carriers available to you. That's why it's mainly streamlined, right? If you're super healthy and you're ready to buy in 5 minutes, it's great. Let's go one step further. We're not going to make it too inconvenient for you. I can't give you the website experience, but I can make it super fast. I think you're probably going to be approved quickly, maybe even instantly. Do you have 10 or 15 minutes for you? So I can't give you the website experience, but something real close to that. How's that sound? So I just lean really hard into convenience, and they tend to go real hard in the paint on that. I don't think they're trying to interact a ton with a human, but it seems like they're really excited about the convenience factor. And here's the thing, Bill, that I noticed within the first probably 100 Ethos leads I ran. It doesn't mean they're not willing to pay a ton of money. My biggest sale so far from an individual was 8,500 AP from an individual that just wanted to buy a giant term policy, didn't want to do any underwriting. He makes $400,000 a year. Get me the heck out of here, man. Just what is this going to cost me? And he was willing to pay $850, and then his wife was willing to pay $4,000, and it took about 15 minutes.
And you nailed it, like you said. I liked what you said, the transition part, because it's funny that you said that a lot of people don't want to deal with somebody. I'm the complete opposite. I hate doing things in automation online. And all that. I just want to have a conversation because I get confused when we get into technology once in a while. It's just like, just tell me what I'm supposed to do and how it's supposed to work. And I got a couple questions for you. So I love that you know the way that you said that you know it's meant to be streamlined and automation, but I take it another level and have a personal situation with you and help you out in that direction, get a little bit more information. And that's what I've heard from everybody. That's what these people are ready to buy. And I've heard stories just like yours. Let me ask you this question. I've also heard in the people I've got that have been doing the call this week are saying that they're just a little bit tougher to get a hold of. Are you finding that also too?
Yeah, and even Casey and I, by the way, Casey gave me a shout out at the beginning of the call, said I helped him out, man. You helped me. That wisdom you gave me on that call, man, about phone burner, recruiting people to your team and all that. I walked away with way more gold than I didn't even know I gave you anything, to be honest. But what you gave me was super helpful. But even Casey and I talked about the challenge of getting them on the phone. And it is, I would agree 100%. They're looking for convenience, speed. They don't want to be bothered. A lot of them are super busy. A lot of them are wealthy, in my opinion. The ones that I'm tripping over have quite a bit of money. But for that reason, they're like, I just want to get this over with.
Yeah.
And so that kind of mentality leads to them being hard to get on the phone. So I'm usually trying to write them on the spot, or I say, hey, okay, that's fine. You're at work, or oh, you're at the mall, or oh, you're shopping. That's fine. Can we write it right when you get home? You think you're going to get home at 5? Well, let's do it at 6. But then, like I said to Casey, I booked 6 appointments this week with Ethos leads, and I just had to scatter them. They're all scattered throughout this week. I try as hard as I can to book them, but
Yeah.
they're flighty, man. They're hard.
Well, you've got the great phone voice. I can hear it, customer service. And the cool part about it, there really is no presentation. That's what I really like about it. You're there just to provide the service that they're looking for and get it done as quick as possible with less hassle as possible. And they're relying on your expertise to do that. The credibility is already there because they already run Ethos and you're calling up, following up on an Ethos. So you don't even have to do any kind of credibility gap, nothing. It's just smooth, silky. So I really, really, really like that. And I agree with you. And that to me, could be a much more powerful lead than a mortgage lead in the long run. It's just that you may have to buy a little bit more, but they're not that expensive, right? They're not that expensive
No, they're
comparatively.
super cheap, which is what drew me to them. I mean, you can get brand new ones for 15 or $18. You can get aged ones. And in my opinion, the aged ones are fine. I mean, my script, just 5 seconds here, Bill. My script is, hey, listen, this was a while ago. You probably already got coverage. I might be able to give you something better, but just tell me a little bit about your experience. Why weren't you able to
Yeah.
get coverage on the site? I would say 70 to 80% of the time, they still don't have coverage because they got on there. They thought, man, I've been putting this off for 10 years, right? We all have with life insurance. And then when they get on there, they try to get coverage. They can't, screw it. And then for a year and a half, 2 years, they still coverage. Most age leads aren't even that old. They're, 3, 6 months. But even if they're super old, they still don't have the coverage. And like you said, Bill, I don't think people intuitively understand they need a guide in this. But once they start talking to someone and they're kind of forced into a phone conversation, essentially forced, they realize, oh, yeah, this is exactly what I need. I have no heckin' idea what I was doing on that website. Can you just give me some basic steps? But then as soon as you start saying 10, 15 minutes, it's not going to be hard. They're like, okay, great. I want your help, but I don't want to be your best friend.
Yep.
I just want to get life insurance and move on with my life. And then hopefully along the conversation, you're building so much rapport that by the end you're laughing, you're telling jokes, you're talking about fishing, at least while they're filling out the application. But that's not what they were coming there for.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, and I can't help but think too, and I'm going to throw it back to John, but I can't help but think that it would be an awesome opportunity just to take a 20-second throw out there. By the way, if you know anybody else that's had that kind of hassle, was looking, whatever, just give them my name. I'll take care of them, so they don't have to go through that same hassle. I would throw that out to everybody I talk to at Ethos. You don't know what circle they're going to be in this weekend at a cocktail party with somebody else that's frustrated and was looking for insurance too, or might be thinking about getting on Ethos, and then looking, say, well, I can give you this guy's name. He can just get it done for you. I don't have to go through the hassle I did. I'm just telling you, just drop those seeds, John Kite.
Love it. This has been so awesome. Hey, Claudia, I did type in the chat. I loved how you talked about your background, and you've been in lead driven sales. You've been mentored by Bill Martin for, I mean, like it's been since 2007. So what's your average in lead driven sales? You mostly personal production, and you have built an agency, but what's kind of been your average annualized income?
Hey, John, working full time, I don't think I ever made less than $200,000 in this business. You know, and when I was in person, you know, I was doing 3 days a week in person. I have been, you know, switched to virtual in 2020, then went back in person. And then, you know, in a situation after my divorce and with my kids, I have to be virtual because I can't travel. But I never made less than $200,000, you know, $200,000 working in this business. And it doesn't mean that I didn't had hard time. It doesn't mean like Bill, I was just thinking the other day, I don't know where we were in the beginning of May 2021. Okay, I don't know where we were, but I remember having this conversation with you, and I lost my sister in March 2021. Okay, I don't know if you remember this conversation,
I
Bill.
do.
And I run the whole entire month of April, and I sold absolutely nothing, like nothing. And I was doing 10, 15 appointments a week, and I sold nothing. And I couldn't quit because, you know, again, I'm providing for my family. And it was hard. It was very hard, you know. And I remember having a conversation with you in the beginning of May, and I say, I don't know what is going on, Bill. And you say like, hey, Stanley Smith is killing it. He just lost his father, didn't he? And I say, yes. And he's smoking me every single week. But he's like, why, Claudia? Like, why? And you know what was? I was afraid to tap into my emotion and broke down in front of someone because I was bottling up my emotion. And I say that because some of you has a story to tell, and I was afraid. I was literally holding to my emotion and not telling people and struggling just because I didn't want to tap into it. And I don't know why I even got into the subject after you asked my income, John, but like my point that I want to make it is we all have a story to tell that our clients need to hear it. I don't know what it is. And let me tell you something, my next week that I tap into my emotion, I made a sale and I'm back into the swings of things. So yes, we had a hard time. You know, the year that I had the most income, which was almost $400,000, was 2023, and I was going through divorce. I was going through the hardest time of my life, and was my highest income. You know why? Because I didn't allow that. I promised to myself that I was not going to allow that to distract me from providing for my kids. So yeah, so this is never made less than $200,000 working this business full time.
Love that. You know, it's just such a great track record. And I loved your comment about, you know, how where you came from and how you have consistently made more than doctors and attorneys and things like that. And, you know, I know you actually came to this country with a desire to education and becoming a professional. And, you know, thank God that this was your calling, because you have helped so many families. You're an incredible team leader. Hey, Bill Martin, as we close, so I mentioned in the first part of this little podcast, this training, you know, it is ultimately setting appointments. Whatever lead type you work, whether it's ethos or whether it's mortgage protection, final expense, digital, every single lead type has a close ratio. And so if you look at your business as a CEO and it's you incorporated, if you are going to work leads, you simply have to work within the close ratio. You're not going to change the close ratios. They are what they are. You're not going to change the averages. You just have to love the story enough to go get the no's and just let the close. You'll confirm the close ratios. Okay. But what's proven time and again, especially with what Claudia just said, if you'll work with the close ratios and be consistent, your revenue, your return on investment will be incredible. Like I just don't get why anybody wouldn't want to do this business with the amount of money that we make and the freedom that we have to control our time. I love it. So that being said, Bill, you are the king of lead driven sales, and you repeatedly teach us it's not about mortgage protection, final expense, it's about a death benefit. And so that being said, as we close the call, can you just simply do your phone script? If I gave you, it doesn't matter what lead it is, okay, but if I gave you an age mortgage protection lead, which somebody could go get for $1, $2, or $3 right now, if I were to say, if I were to put you, you're not an owner of Equus, you're back and you have to go out and make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a week, and you don't have any money, so you're having to work bottom of the barrel leads, what would your phone script be?
And I love those leads, by the way. So, and here's why. Ether's worn off. It may have been a year or two since they got beat down for a couple months, and now that's gone, right? That doesn't mean the need's gone. That just means that beat down's gone. So they're actually a better lead in some ways. Okay, you just got to put the grease in, the elbow grease in to work them. So here it is, John.
Yes, sir.
John, this is Bill Martin. I'm calling you about a request you sent in quite some time ago, and I don't expect you remember, but you took out a loan with AmeriFirst Bank about 2 years ago.
Yes.
Okay, so 151,000.
Yes.
Okay, I've got your request here. Like I said, I'm sure you don't remember it, but you had put in a request at that time to cover that loan in case something should happen to you to protect your family. Does that ring any bells to you at all?
Not really. I can't remember that far back.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, the reason I'm calling you is we didn't have any record it was ever taken care of. So you never talked to anybody?
Don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what.
Maybe
Is
my
your wife
wife.
home right now?
I'm sorry.
Is your wife home right now?
No, she's at work.
What time does she get home?
About 5 o'clock.
Okay. Can you write this down? My name is Bill Martin. I'm going to call you about that mortgage protection. Again, something that she may have done and not you. I'll call you at 5:30. We'll kind of go over this and I'll just share it with you and see if it makes sense to you guys. See if we can get taken care of.
Love it. Love it. So that's your script. What I want people, if people would write down word for word what your script is, fantastic. Okay. But what I want you to get more than anything, and what I want you to duplicate more than anything, is Bill's tonality. So, Bill, if people struggle setting appointments, would you say that a majority of time it's their tonality, not so much what they say?
1,000% of the time. It's just how you sound. If you sound important and you don't sound like a salesman and you're all up here, people will listen to you. They will listen to you if you sound like you have authority, like you're supposed to talk to them in the first place, like you know what you're talking about. They will listen to you. We as humans, that's the way we respond to people.
Love it. Love your tonality. Love what you say in a lot of your teachings. If you can mimic the tonality of your HVAC guy,
yeah,
versus any type of salesperson, you in this industry, you will go really, really far. You know, Bill, something that's been said, some people take offense to it. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, but really in lead driven sales, if you can get your understanding down of the type of people that create a lead, and if you can understand the tonality that you just talked about, really the most successful people are just simply glorified order takers, lot like a waiter or waitress at a restaurant.
Yep.
I mean, so comment on that and we'll close.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, people respond to that. If somebody comes to you that has an expertise in something that you don't, and they're very calm about it and they're very confident about it, you're going to listen to them. It's just human nature to do that. What gets us on our guard up is when somebody's coming at you real high enthusiasm and all excited and everything and talking real fast. We're very skeptical of that, right? but we respond to people that sound like they know what they're supposed to be, what they're talking about, and we respond to it like I'm supposed to be talking to this person. It's all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world.
You know what? Ultimately, man, life insurance protects your family on their worst day. How can I help you? Or take the dadgum order. Find out what people how do people want their family to deal with that worst day? What put that best you can into their affordability, which our industry proves now. Ethos leads are proven to be a little bit higher, but ultimately, Bill, the affordability of most people that fill out a lead is around $85 a month.
Yep.
So learn how to put value into $85 a month, and you will create a second to none lifestyle in this business. So
Absolutely.
tomorrow